Welcome to this short video on improving your own critical thinking. In this video, we will cover the basics on how to improve your own critical thinking. Here are some of the points that we will focus on. Asking questions. Taking a deeper dive into research. Not believing everything you hear or think. Evaluating your work and becoming more self-aware. Doing research and asking questions. These are not the only points, but we will go through all of them thoroughly throughout this video. Don't believe everything you're told. Let's be real here. Sometimes people can be very gullible and believe anything that is said to them, but that can also cause them a lot of trouble. For example, a staff member telling another staff member that if they do a certain thing, they might get promoted, but at the end of the day, that may be the same thing that gets them fired. Always make sure that the information you are gathering through others are reliable and true. If you too, however, gather information, do research, or get a second opinion, make sure that should you follow through on the information you gathered, that it won't come back to you and get you into trouble. I am not saying that you should never believe anyone, but sometimes even the most reliable sources can make a mistake and maybe transfer information or a message incorrectly. Don't believe everything you think. The person who knows how to reason and how to think critically is much more valuable than those who can believe anything. In order to develop yourself as a critical thinker, you need to start questioning everything you believe about the world and people. Asking yourself questions will help you get to a better understanding of why you believe things. Things that may seem obvious to you may not make sense to someone else. This is important especially if you are going to work with people who have a different background and worldview. So rather be the person who overthinks than the one who just takes everything as is. Thinking critically can take you far and help you a lot with easy and hard decisions. Ask questions. Now, this is the best part. This is what will improve your critical thinking and will help you get a better understanding of the world around you. You need to begin thinking like a detective. This means you need to be curious. You have to be interested on everything you see and hear. This will help you get a better understanding of the world around you, and you will also be able to ask people you're working with questions about different things. Being curious can also help you get away from your day-to-day problems. It can help you see the world in a different way. It can also help you see things from different perspectives, which is essential in a team environment. A lecturer or teacher will always tell you to ask if you have any questions or don't understand. Why? Because asking questions can help you progress instead of staying stuck in the same place and not being able to go forward. So, always ask questions, as many as possible. Research deeper. This is the best way to increase your critical thinking skills. Everyone has done research before, but how many of you are able to dig deeper into the topic? It is important to understand why people are doing what they're doing. Why do they think a certain way? How did they come up with that idea? This will help you understand people and the world around you better. When you understand things, you can apply them to your life. You will be able to make better decisions, solve problems, and find solutions to the challenges you face. This will help you become a more valuable member of society. You can really do research about anything and everything, from the smallest to the biggest thing. So if ever you are unsure about something, go do research. And if needed, do even more research until you understand that topic from top to bottom. Doing research will also help you to always be ready when it comes to facts. For example, if you had to go read up on something because you know there is going to be a quiz or discussion about it, do it. Do as much research as you can, because no one can take that knowledge away from you. And imagine how impressed everyone will be if you can be straight up and tell them everything about this topic. Research is good, and deeper research is even better. Always be prepared. Evaluate your work. This is one of the most important steps in critical thinking. This is not about finding flaws or mistakes. It is about evaluating the overall quality of your work. This will help you see things from a different perspective and understand your work better. It is important to not only focus on the appearance, but also the meaning behind it. You need to look at what are you trying to say and how are you trying to say it. This will help you improve your work. No one has been killed for going the extra mile. So do that extra bit of work. Put in that extra hour or two. A little bit of effort goes a very long way. Become more self-aware. Becoming more self-aware is one of the first steps towards improving your critical thinking ability. It's important to be aware of your cognitive biases, so you can better understand why you might come to certain conclusions. First, it's important to remember that there are two aspects to critical thinking: the ability to reason and the ability to assess reasons. Reasoning is the ability to recognize that B might be the reason for C, and so on. Assessing different situations is the ability to assess the strength of the reasons for a conclusion, assessing the quality of evidence. It's important to remember that critical thinking is not the ability to see what's not there, but to see what's there. The more you're aware of your cognitive biases, the less you'll fall prey to them. So stick to being you and doing your best. But remember that we are all humans and we all have different opinions and different ways of looking at situations. Understand your mental process. Knowing something doesn't necessarily make you better at it. This is exactly what cognitive biases are. They are the human mind's tendency to fall prey to certain thought processes. The best way to combat these mental processes is to understand them. Once you know what's happening in your brain when you reach certain conclusions, you're in a better position to fight against them. There are many cognitive biases one can become aware of. For example, researchers from the University of New South Wales discovered that our tendency to experience what we want is a cognitive bias that affects over 50% of all decision-making. So, understanding your mental process definitely has a big impact on your critical thinking. Develop foresight. A lot of decisions come down to what's going to happen in the future. This is where foresight comes in. Foresight is the ability to judge the strength of existing evidence and predict what might happen if a certain decision were taken. It's similar to what statisticians do, but instead of using formulas, we use common sense. For example, you may be considering whether or not to quit your job. You have been working there for a year already, and you're not satisfied with your salary. However, you also know that you have a limited amount of funds to work with. If you quit your job, you'll have to find a new job immediately. You don't have time to look for another job, so you have to make a decision. If you quit, you'll have a certain amount of money to use in the future. What should you do? This is where foresight comes in. In this example, you need to forecast two scenarios. What will happen if you quit, and what will happen if you don't quit? Practice active listening. In this age of clickbait articles, social media, and automated phone systems, it can be really challenging to engage with a person and actually listen to what they have to say. It can be really hard to focus on someone else while thinking about your own topics. However, it's essential that you do this to become a better critical thinker. This can be a little bit challenging at first. However, you don't need to change who you are in the process. You just need to practice listening to others. There are a few ways to do this. First, you can try to speak to someone else while you read an article or a tweet on your phone. This way, you'll be actively listening to them and not reading about your own thoughts. Another way is to go back to the person you're talking to and write down whatever it is that you want to remember about what they have said, so you can keep that at the forefront of your mind. Evaluate existing evidence. This step is optional because it depends on your purpose. However, you should do it whether you're a lecturer, student, or online research center study. Evaluating the evidence is essential because you need to decide what your reasoning is. You need to determine what factors go into reaching a certain conclusion. For example, if you're a lecturer and someone gives you evidence that a student has cheated, you need to determine what reasoning you're using. The same applies to any other topic. It's important to clearly state what your reasoning is, so you can clearly determine what's wrong with it. Critical thinking is one of the most important abilities that humans can have. It's essential for decision-making, problem-solving, and even predicting the future. The more you understand about your mental process, the less likely you are to fall prey to these biases. Becoming self-aware is the first step, and developing foresight is the second. In the end, this process is about being able to recognize when you're being irrational and identifying what needs to change. This way, you can make better decisions,